And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to episode 15 of Toast the Toss. Today, we are going to talk about the ICC Men's T20 World Cup. Like they say, every nation gets their A game to the World Cup, which is why we at Toast the Toss have got an A panel today to discuss about the World Cup. Starting on top right of my window is Abhinav, all the way from Bangalore. Then we have a new person who's doing a debut on our show today, Aditya, all the way from London. And we have our own Arun Sriram, all the way from Bangalore. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Suraj.
Hey, hi.
Hi, Suraj.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Okay, so the excitement of IPL is over. T20 World Cup has started. These are great times to be in because we still have enough reasons to be at home. So beginning with the T20 World Cup, I know this time the associate nations have had a cracking beginning. So I'd like to get your thoughts on the two new nations which we're going to get to see this World Cup, Namibia and Scotland.
Yeah, so it was actually great. The first thing is the upset that they caused over Ireland. And I think that is something that is least expected. And that's why it's obviously an upset, right? And the way Namibia played, I don't think they are behaving like a newbie per se, or even Scotland for that matter. Scotland was absolutely, very precise in the way they approached it. And what is most heartening is some of these stories of people who are playing this part-time and now making it into the big league. I am most excited not just about these two teams, Suraj, but even from the bigger fray. How many of them are going to make it to the IPL next year? Because it's going to be a 10 franchise tournament. So there's only so much people can get from the permanent nations. So from the associates, somebody like a Bilal Khan or somebody like a Jatinder Singh, even from Oman or anywhere, I think that's going to be the most exciting part. And I think it was a fairly interesting warm-up. I don't remember having seen these warm-up phases or whatever the prelude to the main World Cup before. But this time, I don't know whether it's because of work from home or maybe it was genuinely interesting.
I think it's been fascinating, just like the IPL's exposure to our youngsters to the world. I think this entire phase has given exposure to some great talent, like Arun mentioned, Jatinder, quite a few other people. What's fascinating is that when we look at the Group 1, the two countries which have got into the group for Super 12, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, are already international cricket players. And the Group 2 is Namibia and Scotland, which are not international. So it's got pretty lopsided up to Group 1. But that's going to be very interesting. I think we've got a little lucky this time, India.
I just want to touch on the stories that Arun talked about, because as fascinating and exciting as Scotland and Namibia have been, I also remember hearing the story about Papua New Guinea, which frankly, if we were asked to spot on a map, most of us wouldn't be able to. But that's a completely organic team, which is to say there's really very little exposure to cricket. There's no South Africans doing coal pack or anything like that, right? It's homegrown cricketers that have just turned up on the international stage. And it's always exciting to see this.
Yeah. And Arun, Abhinav, related to that, there's some stories I've heard of some of these players from associate nations who obviously cricket is not a full-time job for them. Yeah. So they work in the day, so they have spare time where they practice cricket. And now, if they've qualified, they have a chance to play the finals of the World Cup. That's unbelievable story, isn't it? Like a Bollywood movie.
It is. It deserves at least a couple of Bollywood movies. It's just so nice to see cricket being spread across the world from in countries that we don't expect. Like, frankly, before this tournament, if you'd asked me how I would rate Namibia's chance to be in a World Cup, I'd say you're joking, right?
I think Papu can't dance his passe. Papua can play should be the new one.
That's a killer line, no?
Yeah, it's brilliant. And it's what a lead up to the... I've heard that 2028 cricket could be part of the Olympics, right? Yeah. So there's a brilliant lead up to spread our wings to get there.
So, which essentially means I've got two thoughts, right? One, is I want to find out which companies all of these cricketers work for, because they get to work and they still have so much time to go back and play cricket, right? So that I'd like to find a job there. Two is if any of us still want to get into professional cricket, irrespective of what age we are in. So we need to target some of these countries. It does seem like they have scope for talent.
Yeah, one
But,
guy in Scotland, I think Greaves, if I'm not mistaken, works for Amazon. He was a delivery guy till a couple of months back. So that seems to be the story.
Yeah.
And
Good.
Suraj,
Thank you,
you're
Arun. So that's a place to look for a job now.
sorry, Suraj, you're assuming that we can't make it to the Indian squad, right? I mean, I haven't given up yet. So.
Yeah. Maybe I should say I know for a fact that I can't make it to the Indian squad. So it's time for me to start looking out at Namibia, Papua New Guinea, and a couple of other countries to see if I'm even good enough to get into their top 20.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather get to the Indian squad after Kohli retires, because I think he mandates everybody to do deadlifts and squats and too much of fitness to my liking. So, yeah, but there are 3 or 4 players who've had a dual country representation this time amongst all squad. Which is now, I think, an increasingly common thing in cricket, where you play. And I'm sure when the USA team comes up, it's going to be filled with Asians anyway. So the interesting thing.
Yeah, I know we have had some stars from our under 19 who have retired in India and they've now gone to US to start representing there. So that it'll be interesting to see the US team when they get to these global events. So moving on from the associate nations to the more top nations, which we generally play. So there were 2 games yesterday, but before I get to the games, I want to get your thoughts on the group of death. So there is a group of death and there is the other group. So thoughts, gentlemen, what do you guys think?
Yeah, one is a group of death, the other is the group of death. So you know where the competition is going to come from. So yeah, we'll keeping our fingers crossed for what happens later today. But I think genuinely they all planned for Bangladesh to top one group and Sri Lanka to top the other. Now it's just toppled. Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting. Fortunately, India is in the group of death, so we're pretty positive unless and until there are some massive upsets for India to get to the next stage. But I would be more fascinated to see the group of death. And I have to admit here, as much as I love RCB, right, the other nation which I love other than India is South Africa. It's something I've got an emotional connection with, and they are in the group of death. So you will find me having some emotional swings in some of the later episodes.
Yeah, just one point I want to make, Suraj, is it's great that New Zealand is in the same group as India, because that's the best part of the entire plot, because they don't have to lose to them in the semi-finals. Right? Do it in the league and then don't play New Zealand in a knockout game. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we are safe, Suraj, if we don't do a 2007 World Cup repeat, the 50 over World Cup repeat. Because I think after then, today we can say we are clearly one of the best teams on paper, isn't it? And in 2007 is where the old generation, new generation were all together, and we were really the men in blue phrase got coined before that World Cup, and we kind of lost the plot there. So again, I think we are in an easy group with a great team. It would be an impossible task to lose it from here.
I actually think this World Cup is very neutralizing because of the neutral venue. We usually go into either a SENA country where we know certain countries have a sort of an upper hand, or we go into Asian countries where we know Asian countries dominate. But this is one of these awkward situations where no batsman really will dominate. I don't think this is going to be a batting World Cup. This is a World Cup where I'm so happy that bowlers are going to be in the prominence again. We saw it just yesterday. If the windmills from West Indies couldn't strike the ball, it's not easy to strike the ball. And the UAE is going to be like that. So it's going to be a test for everyone. I wouldn't be surprised to see upsets from our traditional way of thinking, because our traditional ranking is based on countries where we're just simply used to playing cricket, right? So I think I don't necessarily subscribe to group of death and group of death. I think both groups have equal opportunity simply because of the venue. Yes, as India, we carry a head start into this because we've been playing a lot of cricket there for the last month and a half, right? And all the teams have been watching. And let's say because of the IPL, all the teams have been participating in some quantity or the other, but they'll catch on very soon that this is not the usual World Cup where batsmen score 200 plus. I think 150 is going to be a good score across the tournament this time.
That's a good point, Abhinav. That's a good segue to my next question. Now that you touched upon it, let's review the West Indies versus England game, right? West Indies. So my first thought, and I like your comments on it. I mean, it seemed like the West Indies batsmen, with all their power and all their flair, seemed to have a lack of common sense approach to their batting. It seems like every batsman who came to the crease wanted to launch the ball into the orbit, irrespective of who was bowling, what the pitch is doing. Bizarre? Would you guys think bizarre, or is it like a collective bad patch the whole team is going through?
I would just attribute it to, I think it's just a first game, and I would be in general be very kind to people who are coming out of this pandemic situation, all of this. Anything can happen for anybody, right? So I'll be more kind to them. But I can tell you one thing: mutual fund investments are subject to market risk. Please read the offer document carefully before investing. Before I finished this, West Indies innings got over. Yeah, the West Indies innings didn't last this long. Right. So, I mean, I just think they thought the stadium was vertical than horizontal, and they thought they could score runs that way. Unfortunately, that's not how it is. I think it's just a bad day. I think they can still come back. They have the power. It was just a bad night to have.
And I think, Pakistan or West Indies are always traditionally two teams which are most unpredictable. They can have the series of worst days and peak suddenly in a way that it's surprising. And West Indies is currently a team of stars. It's not a star team. There's a difference there. It's a lineup of stars, and each of them can be the most destructive batsman on the day of their choosing. But yesterday was a kind of a preview to the fact that there was not a golden thread through that team that makes it a star team, right? It was just assemblage of stars who weren't really playing as a team. Not just in the batting, even the vibes. I mean, there was the typical West Indian celebration and all of that, but there was nothing more than that. So I think there's some leadership lacuna in West Indies. But listen, that was just one game. They're one of the most unpredictable teams, and they are the only team who's been champion twice in Cricket World Cup. So never discount that.
Remember the name as the popular adage goes, right? But I just have one thing that I notice about West Indies is that if you follow the IPL and if you follow all of the other leagues, the West Indian batsmen are those finishers, right? They come, they're probably 6, 7, and their role in any team usually is turn up around over 16, 17, play 3, 4 overs, score 50, 60 runs and go back. That's your job. And that's the job of the entire team here. They're missing that Shea Hope. They're missing Puran is in bad form. So as Aditya said, there's no one to carry the team through. And so the entire West Indies squad just turned up, scored 50, 60 runs and went back, right? It's just that the dearth that every other team today faces, which is that finisher, that spot of 5, 6, that I think most teams struggle a little bit in these conditions, are exactly the players that West Indies have. They've cornered all the players. They said, bring us into over 16 to 20 and we will demolish the game. But they're not getting to over 16 because there's nobody to take them so far, right? So that sums up West Indies to me.
Well, talking of the match, did you guys notice, and there's a question I have for you guys, on Morgan suddenly seemed to find his touch, even though he didn't play too much. That one of the pull shots he hit was like middle of the bat. And what happened over the last 3 months? And I think when he goes back to England, he suddenly finds his touch again. Did you notice that?
What I heard is that a clock, even if it's stopping, will show time right twice.
You're right.
This must be just one of those.
Yeah.
But he's definitely more destructive for England than for any franchise.
There was absolutely no pressure on them. Right? I mean, even if they started with Chris Wokes, they would have made that score. So I really don't think there was any pressure. So he just went ahead to play, freely, as they say. I don't know if he would play the same way against Australia, for instance. There's more on the line.
But we must credit England for making the match a seemingly dead match exciting, right? It's not like they just went there without losing any wicket. They were what 39 for 4 or whatever, and then somehow because they didn't have to chase a big score, they kind of got over the line. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how if Morgan regains his form back. And I might be tempted to say that I think the England management has told him, listen, we know you're a good captain or because you won the World Cup, but buddy, you've got to score. You can't get the same form you had in IPL and expect to be in the World Cup. But talking about Morgan, this is a specific question on tactics, right? To you guys, opening with Moeen Ali, using Moeen Ali effectively, and then bringing in Adil Rashid. Is that a template you guys think a lot of teams are going to use? Getting in their spinners in the power play and then getting in a leggy in the later half of the game?
I think it's not, in this case, it made a lot of sense because there was just a string of left-handed batsmen. Yeah. And Moeen Ali is proven to be very effective against left-handed batsmen, particularly when batsmen tend to just close their eyes and swing the bat as West Indies is trying to do, right? I'm not sure this is going to work against, let's say, India or even Australia. I'm not sure how much it'll work because Steve Smith is a master at playing spinners like that. So it worked for them. I'm not sure this is what people would want. As we've seen from the IPL, I think pace off the ball is more effective than spin, so to speak. So whatever floats your boat.
I agree there because I think both are useful weapons to have, and really depending on the left-hand, right-hand combination in these places of the match. And remember, though Moeen Ali was celebrated yesterday, Rashid had 4 wickets for 2 runs. So he was equally successful or more.
I'm pretty sure one of the IPL teams would be tearing their hair and their clothes, right? They had Adil Rashid in their ranks, and then they're like, where was this form, buddy? Like, he didn't, or maybe he didn't get enough chances, but he was magical yesterday.
I just realized that somehow India has this knack of bringing Moeen Ali into form. Moeen Ali has been on his exit from the English team at least 3 times in the past. They've played against India and he's come back into ridiculous form. Yeah. West Indies have taken the second part of their name very seriously, right? And I think that's exactly what has happened. Or Moeen Ali did not see the W, he just saw India and he said, yeah, let's do it, man.
Yeah, and Abhinav, Moeen Ali, because I went to the match in Leeds, the third test match, the only match India lost. I currently was there. And I realized Moeen Ali has a huge fan base of English cricket crowd, right? Because when he was standing in as a third man in the boundary, basically, there were huge chants, and these were not sarcastic or pulling the leg kind of chants. These were real fans of Moeen Ali because he's a wonderful human being. He comes across as a very, very, very nice person to be around.
Wow. Interesting. I didn't know the Bami army loved Moeen Ali, but that's good to know. Yeah. Now, moving on from the West Indies versus England to the earlier game, Australia versus South Africa. Is this my initial thoughts, right? It seemed like a matchup between 2 fragile batting units and some amazing bowling. Would you guys agree, or do you have different thoughts?
Yeah, I think I would agree on the fragile batting unit part for both of them. It's a good sign for Australia that Warner and Stoinis got into some runs. I know Warner didn't have a high run rate, but it's good to see him getting a few boundaries under his belt. And Stoinis coming back into runs is a big thing for Australia because he's had a very iffy IPL, so to speak. Right? So otherwise, in terms of batting, we know South Africa doesn't have their batting grades. If there's one other team that must be ruining their World Cup selection squad other than India, it has got to be South Africa. Faf du Plessis is just 1 run short of being the highest run scorer in the IPL, and he's not playing. I mean, how much can you load on Quinton de Kock, right? Aiden Markram was looking good in the few opportunities that he got, but frankly, I don't think he's had enough T20 experience as the other greats in that side have had, right? So I think Australia might come back to form because they're a class side. They've got batsmen. At least they've got Warner can threaten, Finch on his day can take things away, And then they have Maxwell. RCB's lived on Maxwell this year, right? So they've got the players in there. I think they're just a little stronger than South Africa, but the bowling from both sides is good to watch. As I'm confident, the bowling from every side is going to be good to watch this World Cup.
Yeah, like when was the last time in a T20 game you saw Hazelwood, Stark, Cummins in one team, right? And then of course on South Africa you had Nokia, you had Rabada, then you had Pretorius. My God, that was like a stellar bowling lineup on both sides.
Yeah, I actually thought somewhere they were not informed that the warm-ups are over and the tournament has begun. They were blowing hot, blowing cold. Okay, let's see how this goes. Yeah, we'll find out in the next match. Let's just gear up our best 11 after playing this game. That's how it kind of came to me. And I love Nokia's action. He's like, should I bowl? Should I not bowl? Should I bowl? Should I not bowl? And it's like, she loves me not. That's his bowling action, man. I love him.
And in World Cup, South Africa always the carries the burden of being the chokers. So they can forget it, but they can never get out of that cloud. So they'll really have to push themselves twice as hard as other teams, especially as they go into the the higher stages of the tournament.
Yeah, we should call South Africa the Hotel California team, right? They always get into tournament, but they can't get out on top. But going back to the earlier comment of you never know. Themba Bavuma might break a finger again miraculously, and off might just be called back on a flight. But let's hope they find a way to get off.
Miraculously or mysteriously. I wouldn't. They could be desperate enough to do something to get Faf back in, which I think they should do really. But
South African captains and breaking a finger has been like a thing of legends, right? Grant Smith used to break his finger all the time. Now it's Bavuma. But just one other point. Again, tactics. Did you using Maxwell? It seemed like Australia got their tactics right in the power play, got him to bowl for 4 overs, and then some of the balls kept low, and then he was able to put pressure. Otherwise, South African opening, they were running away with the game for the first couple of overs, right? Bavuma and De Kock played really well, and then Maxi seemed to turn things around. Again, do you guys think that's the tactic people are going to use? Because this was a right and left combination. It's not just a left and left combination.
No, I mean, I'm going to stick to my guns, right? The first 5 overs are much easier to play in the Middle East than the rest of the innings, right? In IPL, perhaps we had higher quality batting all round, so we saw the first 10 overs being easy to play. It's just becoming a little more severe here, maybe. But I still maintain that your openers have got to go hard, or at least one of your openers have got to go hard, because you can only amass runs at the start. The old form of playing where you hang around, get yourself in, and then just launch in the last few overs is not going to work this time around. So you will see this. Most teams will get, even West Indies for that matter, in the first couple of overs, there were a couple of slogs that connected, and that's about the only time where connection is going to be easy. It's going to be hard after power play.
And speaking of Maxwell, he's probably the golden period of his. He just had one of his finest IPLs, back-to-back 50. So in general, his confidence is sky high. He's been playing on the same grounds. So as a captain, I would want to milk it as much as possible, whether it be bowling, fielding, or batting, because he's the guy who plays that pseudo leadership of confidence within the team. Because he's been Maxwell. When we all know when Maxwell has a bad series of scores, you can see their confidence drop. He doesn't believe in himself. His reverse sweeps don't work. And he just seems like this expensive guy who's a waste in the team. But when he's doing well, he brings the team together with the celebration and all of that. So I would back Maxwell to do a lot for Australia this time.
Maxwell is Suresh Raina in form.
Sorry, go ahead. What are you saying?
Maxwell is Suresh Raina in good form.
Exactly.
Maxwell now, the other thing which is going for Maxwell, if you guys noticed yesterday, was he's got the same hairstyle as AB. So he's tying a pony, and which is what AB did in the IPL. So hope that brings him luck as well.
Did he do that? He didn't do that in the IPL, did he, Maxwell?
Yeah, he didn't do that.
Something's
AB did
happened
it
in
the
2 weeks.
IPL.
He has done some grooming. Yeah.
So AB did it in the IPL, and now I see Maxwell doing it in the World Cup. Maybe he just thinks that whole pony might get the ghost of AB into him, which would probably work for Australia. Quickly moving on to the biggest game today, India versus Pakistan. I know everybody has put out their favorite 11s. I'm not going to ask you guys the favorite 11 question, but I have a specific question for Aditya, right? Just from because I know you have a background in leadership consulting and you do a lot of leadership consulting. How important would Dhoni's presence be as a mentor to the Indian team? And where do you think is there a specific thing to a winning team? How much does a leader or a mentor bring into it?
T20 is such a different ball game, isn't it? Because you really cannot. The role of leadership is not just to strategize or plan for after tea, before teas, day 3, day 4. It's not a test match. So the role of the mentorship is really bringing leadership in the flow of work, not just in planning sessions. So I love what Dhoni said after CSK won. He said, we don't have team meetings in CSK. While we do net practice, we just have casual conversations with each other. Feedback is delivered as notes. One of the research my organization did was, how does performance management happen outside of corporate world? And we talked to actors and film producers and theater artists and Cirque du Soleil and all these very famous people. And they said feedback is often delivered as notes, not a once in a year performance process. So Dhoni reflected that. He said, when we are doing net practice, we speak to each other, and we don't have any team sessions after that. And I think that's so important for T20 because you cannot really plan too much ahead of a 3-hour game. So I think the role of Dhoni is to bring that calm and bring, as I said, for West Indies as a team of stars, not a star team. India should not fall into the trap of becoming a team of stars. It should be a star team. And I think Dhoni will play an important role. And the best part is the trust that Kohli has on Dhoni. Not just a fake trust in the last 1 month after the selection, but he's been throughout saying, my captain, I captain and stuff. So that equation has gotten right. So I'm really thrilled and I think it will work out well.
On a funnier note, maybe BCCA doesn't want to risk another book signing by our famed head coach, right? And then getting COVID and being out of the tournament. So they said, we will have a more sober man. I'll be interested to see if Dhoni convinces Kohli to keep all his swearing and emotions in check on the field. That will probably be the most difficult thing for Dhoni to convince Kohli on because 2 different personalities. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how his influence will show on how the team performs in the field. But quick predictions. I'm not going to ask you who's going to win, but who do you think will be a star performer today for both the teams?
I think for India, KL Rahul has been in sensational form, and he's one person who can change the game. So as a batsman, I want KL Rahul to do well because I think that'll be a big difference for us. As a bowler, I hope Varun Chakravarti's mystery spin pays off. With Pakistan, you never know who's going to do what. As Aditya said, they're so unpredictable. You may suddenly find a Harris Roth taking 4 wickets, or might find they have Hafiz and both Shoaib Malik in there, right? So you don't know what can actually happen. But I'm hoping with these 2 factors going away, KL coming good at the top and Varun Chakravarti bamboozling Pakistan. Because remember, Pakistan hasn't played a lot of cricket of late. Even though UAE used to be their home ground at one point in time, they've not played cricket there for quite some time. So I hope Pakistan goes the West Indies way because they need to get the rust out of their system, but never know.
Yeah.
I would think for Pakistan, Afridi would be the star. I think great with all these slower balls, mix-ups and all. Today, I'm so much looking forward to just raw pace, doing the stuff for Pakistan today. And from India's side, I think Jadeja would come good because if Afridi starts striking, we'll need somebody from the middle order to stand up, and I think that would be Jadeja today.
For a second, I thought the old
You
Shahid
never know.
Afridi actually
You
came
never
back
know.
from
That's why I
retirement.
kept it as Afridi. I didn't say the full name. You never know.
Well, Shoaib Malik is still there, so they could
Yeah.
bring back Shahid Afridi also. I think, I'm reminded of the late 90s where there's a battle within a battle when India-Pakistan plays. So I think the fans are really, I don't subscribe to this, but there's a big thing on social media. Is it going to be Babar Azam or Virat Kohli? Because they are saying Babar Azam is now the informed guy. Kohli is going out of touch, and also there's a kind of lot of battle within a battle. In spin, India clearly have the advantage. In pace, I think, as he said, Afridi is a good contender, so our people need to show up. So it's going to be really exciting. But we also know in these matches, the usual suspects end up it becoming an anticlimax, like a KL Rahul, for example. We all expect him to go bonkers today. Who knows? He may be out in the first over. So I think the middle order is going to be very important for us to stabilize the innings.
There are two wildcard performances I'm looking forward to is Mohammad Rizwan from Pakistan. I think he's a fabulous talent. And he's coming at the top of the order. So there's a fair possibility he might do well. And I really want the real Hardik Pandya to turn up today, right? Because not that he can't bowl. I really want him to.
Will he be in the 11 though, Suraj? You think so?
Sorry?
Is he in the 11 for today? Will he be in the 11?
From what Kohli said, he says it's very difficult to replicate what Hardik brings in at the number 6 spot. So the sense I get is maybe they're going to play him in the league matches to see if he is that X factor. But I don't know who else is the number 6 or number 7. Maybe
so Shardul will drop out then for today, according to you, right?
Sorry, what was that?
Shardul will have to sit out then if Hardik gets selected.
That's the sense I get.
I think they may take Hardik in as a pure batsman and maybe 1 or 2 overs if needed. I don't see them dropping Shardul. He has a knack of getting wickets, so and his slower deliveries are good. But like Suraj said, as much as I would want them not to put Hardik in there, I think they would probably test him out early in the tournament as a batsman and maybe bowl if he can, and keep Shardul in there as well.
And I hope one of Ishan or Sky makes it to the team. I mean, it's a team which it's difficult to even grab a spot, but I definitely hope Ishan or a Sky. So more so Ishan because he's been in good touch. Okay, so we look forward to the game today. Let's hope India comes on the winning side. But more than that, I just hope it's an exciting match. As long as it's an exciting match and both the teams don't give an inch on the field, that's as sports fans, that's something which we would all love to see. Now, moving on from cricket, one of our panelists is also a multifaceted personality. And Arun Sriram is a stand-up comedian as well. And he does shows. And now a little birdie tells me you are ready to do another show.
Yes, Suraj. The way you said he's a comedian and he does shows reminded me of how Abhinav says he's a bowler. He has a knack of picking wickets. As a comedian, we are expected to do shows. And yes, my next show is in Chennai this time. It's Control Z that premiered in Bangalore a few weeks back, a month or so back, with Suraj and Abhinav. Both of you attended, so gracefully thank you. And it's going to be the same show in Chennai at Soko. It is one of the best venues, or perhaps the best venue for stand-up comedy in Chennai. It's called South of Comedy at the Savera Hotel. All COVID norms will be followed as usual. So find your way to the venue. You can book your tickets on Book My Show, and we'll see you there.
Hey Arun, just off topic. If we show up to the show, everything is on the house for us, right?
Yes. Right now they are no longer serving any foods or beverages at the bar right now. So it's and yeah, thanks for giving me one more chance. It's happening on the 6th of November, guys, at 4:30 p.m. So it's possibly before a great match at 7 p.m. or whatever. So just make your way. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've attended the show in Bangalore, and I must say it is one of those shows which is extremely funny, but also has a twist in the end. So for those of you who are on the fence, I would highly encourage you to attend this show because this is one of the out of the box stand-up comedy shows I've been a part of, and I can say that because I've attended it in person.
Thank you, Suraj.
Okay. Before we end the show, a couple of announcements. The more important announcement is please like, subscribe this video, and please subscribe to our channel the Toast Network. The other thing we do, other than discussing about cricket, is we also have a show on F1. And tomorrow at 6 p.m., our panel is going to review the US Grand Prix, which is going to happen later in the day today. So for all of those F1 fans, please do check out our live show tomorrow. Please do subscribe to our channel, The Toast Network on YouTube, and we'll keep coming up with content. Thank you so much, Abhinav, Aditya, and Arun. Fabulous show today. Thank you again for sparing time and giving your insights. I would love to see you guys again, and we will be back next week. Thank you.
My
And
pleasure,
have a
Suraj.
good
Thanks
game,
for
everyone.
having me.
You guys,
Thanks,
bye.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Great discussion.